Over the last couple of months, like many others, I've used Claude Code a lot. I've used it to help me build projects like Build My Graphics, some other projects which are yet to launch, and lots of internal tools. I'm not using it for vibe coding, to be very clear about that, but I'll get back to how I use it because that's exactly what this video is about. I want to share my top Claude Code usage strategy, my 6 top usage strategies, the 6 things I would recommend doing when you're using Claude Code to get good results. Now, it's worth noting that I'm using Claude Code with the Max plan, which gives you 20x the usage, obviously heavily subsidized by Anthropic, but you get lots of usage out of Claude Code here. And if you're not running Claude Code in a loop, in a Ralph loop, and there's been lots of hype about that, then you get plenty of usage out of it. And that's actually already my first point. I don't loop, I don't Ralph, I stay in control. And that's important to me. I know there's lots of hype these days about running Claude Code in a loop. We have that entire Ralph Wiggum thing here, where the idea is that you have a detailed product requirement document. In the end, a document that details all the different steps you need to take to build the product you want to build, and you hand that document off to Claude Code in a loop, a simple bash loop, for example, where you run Claude Code over and over again with a prompt where you tell it to look into the document, pick the next step, tackle that step, and then work its way through the document until it's done. And the idea simply is that by having a detailed plan, you get good results. Now, I will totally agree that a detailed plan matters. Planning matters. I totally agree with that. It absolutely does matter, no matter what you're building. But I'm not a fan of the AI working its way through a plan on its own. Instead, I like to stay in control, as I mentioned. That is really important to me. I feel like AI can be a very helpful tool for developers, and I shared that in plenty of other videos on my other YouTube channel, Maximilian Schwarzwiller. I feel like AI can be a very helpful tool for developers. I believe every developer should use AI as a tool, but I don't feel like it can really give me good results if I let it run on its own. That's why I'm absolutely not into vibe coding. I tried the Ralph loop. I'm not just saying that without testing it. For me, the results were not convincing. I wanna stay in control. And kind of related to that, my second point is use plan mode. Because plan mode is amazing. In Claude Code, you can cycle through different modes with Shift-Tab, and there is a plan mode built into Claude Code. And the idea behind that mode, and I'm sure you know that, is simply that it does not go ahead and execute changes right away, or that it does something based on your prompt right away, but that instead first it gathers information, it explores the code base, it tries to understand your prompt, it may also look up documentation, though I'll get back to that, and then it makes a plan, and then you approve that plan or not. It may even ask you some questions if more clarification is needed. Now, plan mode, therefore, is really helpful for a couple of different reasons. For one, it can save bad prompts. So if you're writing poor prompts, plan mode can help you here because it can kind of help you get to a better prompt. By asking follow-up questions, it might clarify things that might not be clear from your prompt, but of course, you should try to write good prompts in the first place. Because that's important. AI is a tool. The output will only be as good as your input. And even then, there is randomness involved, let's be honest. But if you're throwing bad, unprecise prompts with missing context at the AI, you will not get great results out of it. So good prompts with good context engineering, so with the right context being provided, matter. So good prompts are still important. That is really worth noting here. But of course, you definitely have plan mode as a little, savior that can come in. But that's still just one advantage of plan mode. Another advantage of plan mode is that it shows you what the AI wants to do. And that is really valuable in my experience, because it's far too easy to just blindly trust the AI to do something and that it does the right thing. But hey, it's AI. It's not necessarily going to do the right thing. It's definitely not necessarily going to write the code you might want it to write. And the great thing about plan mode is that even if you don't get follow-up questions, so even if your prompt maybe already was good enough, like here for me in this example, I still get a plan. And I know a lot of developers that will just blindly accept that plan, so that will just hit enter and let it do its thing. But don't be that kind of developer. Take a look at that plan. It tells you what it wants to do. If you asked it to fix an issue or find a solution for a bug, it will tell you what it thinks causes the bug. And by the way, when I say think, you always want to keep in mind that you're dealing with token generators here. But still, it will tell you what it wants to do. And you should take a look at that. And then here's the shocking part. You should feel free to edit that plan. So don't blindly accept it, edit and tweak the plan if needed. You can and should do that. It's nothing you have to just accept and get done with and then fix any problems that might occur thereafter. Instead, take a look at the plan, tweak it to your likings, and then accept it. Because you can always go to that fourth point here and say, I don't like the text on the 404 page, and then be more precise. And then you can get it to generate a new plan, which you then may accept. And that's a way better approach than letting it do its thing just to then find out that you don't like what it did and you want it to fix. That burns more tokens, is more work, wastes time, and fixing code with AI is not a lot of fun. And by the way, I cover in detail how to use Claude Code, how to write prompts, how to do context engineering, how to provide general roles, how to use tools Claude Code offers, like agents or skills, to which I'll get back in this video too, and much, much more. And I'll build a complete demo project in a brand new course I just launched about Claude Code. You find a link to that course with a great discount below the video in case you're interested. The third point here is that I use agents and skills. And what do I mean by that? Claude Code allows you to build custom sub-agents, something I also show in my course, like with all the things I mention here and much, much more. The idea here is that Claude Code can launch these sub-agents with their own dedicated context window to save tokens in the main context window so that you don't run out of context space there. And those agents can then specialize in certain tasks. And one agent I like to build, which I also built in that course, is a Docs Explorer agent, for example, which is simply an agent optimized for browsing documentation. And I give that agent certain tools like web search or the Context 7 MCP. So I give that agent those tools. The Context 7 MCP, in case you don't know, is an MCP server that gives AI agents easier access to the documentation of third-party libraries or languages you might be working with. I'm not a huge MCP fan, I will say that, because I feel like they're token inefficient. AI is not that good at using MCPs in my experience, and I prefer built-in tools, and I don't need that many tools anyways. But the Context 7 MCP is pretty amazing, and I built my own Docs Explorer agent, which has the specific task of using web search and this agent to browse for documentation. And in addition to that custom agent, I also equip Claude Code with skills, and that will be skills that are project dependent or specific. So for example, if I'm working in a Next.js project, I might give it a skill that describes some best practices I wanted to use in relation to Next.js to ensure that it uses Next.js or writes Next.js code that is in line with my expectations and my preferences. And it's worth noting here that there also are open source initiatives like Vercel skills here that make it easy to install specific skills into projects and load openly shared open source skills into a project, like the React best practices shared by Vercel. I will also do that in many projects, but I still like to craft my own skills with my very own preferences, patterns, and simply rules that come from my experience as a developer that I want the AI to use. Because the idea behind the skills is that the AI will read those skill files when needed. They are lazily discovered. They're not always loaded in full into the context. Instead, they're loaded when the AI decides that it needs to use a skill. And then that skill can give the AI extra context, extra instructions, which should increase the chances of getting good results. And that's important here. We're always talking about increasing our chances because it's still AI, there is randomness. You can't be sure that it does stuff the way you want it to do, but you can try to increase the chances. That's the entire game of using AI as a developer, in my experience. And that's therefore my fourth point here: explicit over implicit. Now, what do I mean with that? With that, I simply mean that the AI may do something the way I want it to do, but I can't be sure about it. So I'm rather explicit. So for example, if I'm using the BetterAuth library in a project and I want to use authentication via Google, I write that explicitly, but I'll also say something like use the Docs Explorer agent, which is that custom agent I wrote, which is good at exploring documentation, which I mentioned before, to explore the relevant BetterAuth docs before implementing, because I've seen it too often that AI will just head off and do something, and then I see that it didn't do what I wanted it to do, and that it, for example, has access to certain agents or certain skills, but it just won't use them, even though in theory it should. And I don't want that. I'm not getting anything out of saying, hey, the AI is pretty bad, it didn't do what I wanted to do, if I never told it what it should do. It's a stupid tool that can be amazing, kind of. And therefore, don't hope that it does something, or don't wait for it to fail just so that then you can be convinced that AI is not good. Instead, know that it is good at generating lots of code quickly and use that as its strength and give it the necessary instructions it needs to increase the chances of getting the output you want, essentially. So that's what I mean with explicit over implicit. I rather tell it explicitly what I want it to do, if I know what I want it to do, than that I hope that it does that. I hope that makes sense. I have no problem with telling the AI something which it maybe would have done anyways, if I can then be sure that it will do what I want it to do. So for example, here it used the Docs Explorer to look up the BetterAuth docs, and I didn't have to hope for that. My fifth point is kind of related to this. Trust but verify. AI is great, and if you give it a good prompt, if you're specific, if you provide the right context, depending on the problem that was tackled, you have good chances of getting decent results. But don't blindly trust that. You are in control. So you should verify the results. You should not blindly trust them. Carefully review the code. Don't just think that it's correct. Think about it critically. Don't dismiss it as AI generated, it's certainly bad. Instead, accept what's good and try to improve what's bad. And bad can also be something that maybe is okay, maybe works, but isn't using a pattern or an approach you want to use. So do that. But also give the AI tools of self-verification. So give it tools for self-verifying, because that can vastly improve results. Actually, I guess that's my second point. The first one is review the code, as I just mentioned. But with tools for self-verifying, I mean stuff like unit tests, E2E tests, and also potentially, depending on what you're building, browser access via the Playwright MCP, for example. The idea here simply is that the AI can do these things on its own. You might want to tell it, as I mentioned here, in explicit over implicit, but it can run tests, it can run linting commands, for example. So That would be something else in here. And it can also access the browser with tools like the Playwright MCP, though you want to be careful here. That is token heavy, so that burns a lot of tokens and you don't want to use that all the time, therefore. At least you want to know that it can burn a lot of tokens. But giving the AI tools that help it to evaluate the results on its own can vastly improve the quality of the output. It's still not a guarantee. For example, the AI may write tests that simply pass, and it might adjust the tests to the code instead of the other way around. So you want to be careful, but still, this can lead to better results. And it does still not mean that you should not review the code and, of course, also test yourself. You want to do that. You're in control and you have responsibility for the code. You can't say, AI wrote it, it's bad, sorry. You are in control. And then the last one, you're still allowed to write code. Shocking, I know. But with AI tools, it's not an either or choice. You're still allowed to write code, and you should still write code. I'm not going to ask AI, please increase the margin of this box from 0.5 rem to 1 rem. I can do that myself. And if you review the code, if you understand the code the AI generated, which you should, getting back into the code base shouldn't be too difficult. And don't get me wrong, I've fallen into the trap of handing off too much work to the AI and of not fully understanding the code base. I'm not doing that anymore. I make sure that I always understand the code base and that I'm always able to get back in there, because I'm a developer. I can read code, I can write code, and I can still write code even when I'm using AI. So if AI can't figure something out, if you have a trivial change where you just don't want to burn tokens, I mean, those tokens cost money, just do it yourself. And by the way, coding is fun, at least for me, so I love getting into the code and writing code myself from time to time. And it's never been easier with great auto-completion in Cursor or VS Code, and therefore this also is a very important point. And the last of my points here. Now, as I mentioned, I have a full course where I dive deeper into Claude Code, where I dive deeper into these points, many others, where I explain in detail how to build custom agents and all that fun stuff. You find a link below, but I hope these points are also helpful and allow you to get better results out of Claude Code.